So what I would like to do is you have a copy of this at home for you to be able to read. And what I'd like to do is just pause the video and have a quick read of it. And we're going to answer some questions based on this text. Okay, so the first question we're going to look at is find and copy 3 different words from the first sentence which suggests danger. So I'm going to model this one to you. So if I'm thinking of 3 different words, okay, about danger, I need to think of synonyms. Okay, so I'm thinking of things that might be hazardous, it could be hazardous, dangerous, threatening, powerful. I'm thinking of all those synonyms that I can link to danger. And obviously, danger is in it as when people list those emotions being scared or worried about something. But usually, when something is dangerous, it means that something not quite right is going to happen or something bad has happened. So the first thing to do is think, well, I need to indicate the keywords. We need to find and copy 3 different words. Now I know those 3 different words have got to be synonyms, okay, of the word danger, okay? Now it could be synonyms of danger, it could be words that link to the idea of danger. So if I have a look at the very first sentence, because it tells me here it's just from the first sentence, not the whole paragraph, the first sentence. So in the boisterous weather, when the rain fell in torrents and the wind howled like a distressed wolf, the little Irish boy would fearlessly and cheerfully climb to the top of the mast. So we need to think, well, what words are in there that I can link? So let's look at the first one here. So I'm looking for adjectives, really, okay, because those are going to be the synonyms of the words linked to danger. So in the most boisterous weather, okay, now boisterous here, when someone's quite boisterous, they're quite rough. So you imagine if there were 2 children in the playground, they were being quite boisterous with each other. That's when they start doing a bit of shoving, a bit of pushing, a bit of play fighting. But when it gets boisterous, that's when it starts to cause more harm. So they might be punching a little bit too hard. Or maybe they've knocked the child down to the ground one too many times, a little bit hard. So to be boisterous means to be quite a bit brutish and a bit of a bully. So it means that it's going to be quite rough. So in the most rough, dangerous weather. So I know that boisterous is going to be one of those words on there. When the rain fell in torrents. Now, I wonder if you know what torrents is. Now, you might have seen the word torrent in another word that links to rain. Do you know what it's called when we have like a real heavy downpour of rain? Yeah, we call it torrential rain, don't we? So when it's torrential rain outside, that's when it's like a monsoon, where it's really, really, really heavy rain. Now, if I think about it, if I was to come back from school and I was driving home after the school day, and it says torrential rain outside, that poses an element of danger. Because I then can't see clearly out of my car unless I have my windscreen wipers on. Obviously, everyone has to drive a lot slower because a car crash is going to be more likely to happen in torrential rain. They all elicit the ideas of things being dangerous. Okay, so I've got boisterous and torrent. And the wind howled like a distressed wolf. Okay, so if it says here that it howled like a distressed, now a wolf that's in distress means a wolf in pain. A wolf that's not okay. So when you're distressed, that means you're worried, you're anxious, you're not okay about something. And when they do that, they howl. So they're linking that idea of that wind howling like a distressed wolf. It's a powerful, very painful sound. And obviously that wind, along with that rain in itself, can be very, very dangerous, especially on the fact that they're on a boat that's in the ocean. So my first word I'm putting down there is boisterous. Okay, so it needs to be a bit brutish, a bit firm, a bit rough, a bit harsh. We've then got torrents, okay, which is a heavy downpour of rain, like torrential rain. And then we've got here the idea that it howled like a distressed. So it's almost symbolising that pain of the wind, okay? If wind wasn't in a dangerous situation, it wouldn't be howling in pain. Okay, it might be whistling a sweet melody or a beautiful tune. So you can see how that use of the simile there helps identify that pain, so that danger within our wind. So let's have a look at the second one. We're going to do this one together, so you should have a copy of this at home as well. Now, the phrase that we've picked out from our text is as if atop a tightrope. Now, to be atop means to be on top. Okay, so as if on top of a tightrope. So what does this phrase suggest about Volney? So first of all, let's think about the keywords. Okay, so we're looking for this phrase in here. Okay, so it says he would balance as if atop a tightrope. So we know that we're in this weather, we're in the rain, we're in the wind, and it says the Irish boy would fearlessly and cheerfully climb to the top of the mast. Now we know, where is the mast on a boat? Does anybody know? Yeah, good, it's right at the top. So let's imagine you climb to something that tall. Now you may have done this when you were young. You might have climbed a tree. I always used to climb the tree outside my house. You might have climbed a tree. You might have a climbing frame in your garden. You might have gone to the park where there's been a climbing frame. You might have climbed up and down a fireman's pole if you go to a play park. So you think you've climbed up something and you're quite tall. Now imagine that experience that you had before and think, well, What might that have felt like in amongst a thunderstorm? Okay, it might be very windy, it might be wet, so you start to lose your grip a little bit. And then you imagine doing that on water. Okay, it becomes very, very dangerous. Now, the whole idea of it being on water is that a boat's moving, isn't it? So as that boat's moving, so's that mast. Okay, so it's not like it's on solid ground, so you have to balance. Okay, you have to use your centre of ground. You have to balance. Now, the reason why it says as if top a tightrope. Now, you might have seen this if you've ever seen any circus or acrobats. You might have seen, if any of you've watched like The Greatest Showman, and they have the big circus part of the story. Now, a tightrope is a very thin piece of rope that goes that's attached to, I don't know, the two poles or two parts of the building, but something that stabilizes it. And effectively, the trick that the acrobat does is they walk along it. Okay. Now you need to imagine that it's not very thick. Okay. It's like walking on a rope effectively. Now your feet are bigger and wider than a rope, but you only have your body and your balance. Now, if you've ever seen anyone do that, that's really difficult to do. So what they're doing is they're comparing the idea of him balancing on a tightrope as being as difficult as like what an acrobat would do on top of the tightrope. So my answer here, okay, is linking to that idea of the balance. Okay. So it says it suggests that he is good at balancing like an acrobat. So we're linking that idea of the balancing and the skill of what a tightrope is. And we know that's one of the gymnastic things or the acrobat techniques or skills that an acrobat would have in the circus or in some form of kind of gymnastic performance. Okay. So this one I want you to have a go at doing on your own. It should be an easy peasy one because we've done similes and metaphors for the last week. So you should be able to identify it. We're looking for keywords of like or as. Okay, so what I want you to do is pause the video. I want you to find a copy of an example of a simile and explain the meaning of it and how that links to the text. Okay, so pause the video and have a go. Okay, well, the one I came up with here, okay, I'll look at find and copy. Okay, as my keywords for my question. I found this one here right at the beginning. In the boisterous weather, when the rain fell in torrents and the wind howled like a distressed wolf. Now, my keyword that I was looking for here, okay, is I had the word like. Okay, so I'm comparing the wind to the howl of a distressed wolf. Okay, so that goes back to that bit we spoke about earlier about that symbolism of it being in pain. Okay, so howled like a wolf helps the reader imagine the sound of the wind and create atmosphere. Okay, if you imagine being sat on a boat and it's very quiet in the middle of a thunderstorm, that doesn't quite work. Okay, thunderstorms are very busy, very hectic, and they're very, very loud. So that adds the idea. If you sit there and close your eyes now, you can see this boy up on the mast. He's shaking, he's wobbling around. You've got the torrential rain, you've got the howling of that wind whipping through your ears. You can now almost imagine yourself being that boy on top of that boat. Okay, and that's the whole idea of the similes and metaphors. Is it's supposed to elicit an image in the reader's mind. Okay, so well done if you picked up on that link there. So what I would like you to do now is have a go at doing the questions based on pages 121 to 123, so the pages we've just looked at. Now, being nice to you today, I haven't given you very many questions because I gave you a lot of questions and an entire chapter to read in your lesson yesterday. Okay, so I want you to have a go at those questions and then come back to the end of this video because I've got a short plenary for us to have a go at. Okay, so pause the video and have a go. Okay, so we're just going to have a quick recap, okay, on some of the types of questions that we're asked, okay, when we're looking at the author's intent. Now, when we look at the picture it questions, just like the one we've done there, where we had that idea of the wind howling, howling like a distressed wolf, that simile is trying to elicit a feeling, an emotion, an image in your head of what that might sound and look like. Now, when we ask you those kind of questions, those are your picture it style questions. So you've got to picture it and listen to it in your own mind. So it asks the reader to think about what that impression is that the author wants to have on you as the reader. Now, obviously, we know from experience that usually similes and metaphors are the best thing to do to create that image in your mind. Okay. Now, sometimes it may show more than one image, and this is what I want to recap with you. Okay. It says here, like sitting, like a toy sitting on a glass table. And the other question we've looked at was where it's sitting on water that like reflected a mirror. And sometimes you have to think there might be more than one meaning. okay, to the way that something is represented, but you need to almost apply it to the context of what we're looking at. So sometimes it may show more than one image, and you've then got to think what that intended image is and whether it's appropriate to fit with the story, okay? So if you can picture more than one image in your mind, so you might have the more simplistic version of the howling in the wind. You might think of a wolf on top of a mountain that's howling. That's not going to give you the image that's then supposed to be linked to the text. So what you need to do is almost imagine that first image of a wolf howling and imagine what it sounds like. And then apply that to the context of, well, hang on, the wind whipping round. I can see the wind. It's going round the boat, it's going through the sails, and I can hear that sound in the back of my head. That's the kind of image that you need to get to, because that's the one that links to the text, not the idea of a physical wolf sitting there and howling. Okay? So well done for having a go at those questions. Tomorrow, so you'll have an independent task, and then on Thursday it'll be World Book Day. So the next lesson that you'll do for this one before we return back to school will be on Friday, and that will be your last home learning video for our reading, because then we're going to carry on doing it at school. Okay, so well done for having a go at those questions. Okay, and we'll see how you get on with the independent task tomorrow. All right, well done, Year 5.